When we talk about accounts receivables, we're basically talking about an asset, liability, or equity account. An asset account. Okay? And which one is it? We talk about assets, we talk about cash, then accounts receivable, right? So that's where we are in terms of the balance sheet. Now, to take what you were talking about earlier with your T accounts, assets have a normal what type of balance? Debit, which means you increase them with the debit. All right? Now, we're talking about allowance for doubtful accounts. What type of account is allowance for doubtful accounts? If this is an asset account, then allowance for doubtful accounts is a, you love liabilities, so I'm going to give you all my liabilities. A contra asset account, okay? So we just abbreviate allowance account, okay? And it will have a normal credit balance. Why does that make sense? Because it goes against your accounts receivables, okay? I sell something to all of you just based on history. I'm not saying you will or will not. Based on history, 3 of you won't pay. So I'm going to say that I'm going to have, 25 people minus this right here, or a total of 22 people going to pay. Okay, not to say the other ones are not, but that's just a brief thing of the allowance, okay? This is going to help us, the allowance account is going to help us to value accounts receivables, okay? So, when we talk about valuing accounts receivables, we have 2 different methods, okay? What are those 2 different methods that we talked about the other day? Sir? Aging method and allowance. Let's kind of go up a little bit. Let's just call it basically the direct write-off method, or the direct way, if you want to just keep it that way. And you also have the allowance method. All right? Those are my 2 methods. Now, the direct method says that I sold something in 2016. Someone's going to return it today, or someone's not going to pay for it today, so I'm going to write it off right now. Does that make sense? What's the problem with that? I sold it in 2016. I worked to make that sale in 2016. I used materials from 2016, but I'm going to write it off in 2019. What's the problem? Remember that principle we talked about the other day? My expenses do not what my revenues. So at the end, my expenses do not match my revenues. Okay, and remember, you want to do that for planning purposes, all right? Because of that, the most preferred way is this allowance method, which is where we're going to spend most of our time. We'll spend some time over here, and of course, the entry to write it off in that actual year is bad debt expense, and then you have a credit to accounts receivable, whatever that may be, okay? That's under the direct method. Now, when we talk about the allowance method, there are 2 different ways to do it. One of them is that aging method, okay? So the first one would be what you sometimes see called the percentage of sales, okay? The other one is the aging method. With the aging method, you have a pretty good benefit of that. What is that benefit? Let me put it like this right here. With the percentage of sales, let's say you sell $100,000 this year, and based on history, 2% is not going to be collected, so I make an entry to account for 2% of those sales, right? The problem is that what? It increases in what? It does increase, but probably because of this person or because of that person, okay? More importantly, because some of the sales I just made, but others, I made them a while back and I still haven't gotten paid. If I owe you $1 today, if payday is Friday, you probably get your dollar, right? You feel pretty good about getting that, right? But what if I don't give you that dollar and it's the day before school is out? Time has passed, you're not as sure. So that's going to increase the chance that you might not collect it, right? That's what this takes into account, the aging method, okay? So a lot of times you will see most recent sales, that's one way you can say it there. Sales for the last 30 days, for the last 60 days, 90 days, or more, just depending on, what bucket you're using. Got it? Okay. Now, what I do, I'll actually have a percentage, expected percentage, based on history again. You may say maybe 1% of the people won't pay here. I'm just kind of making it up here. 5% maybe not pay here, and maybe 10% of the people, probably a little bit higher, will not pay after 90 days. You multiply that by each portion that you have there, and that's how you get your allowance for bad debt accounts. What we want to focus on today is this aging method. All right. And what's that problem we said we're going to work on today? Who tries? If you wrote it down, you'll know where we are. All right. So let's see here. We have accounts receivables. We have a total accounts receivables of $377,000. Total accounts receivables, right? And of that, over the last 30 days, we had sales of $222,000. What does that mean? That means that out of my whole entire $377,000, I sold how much in the last 30 days? $222,000, okay? Next, I have $90,000 I sold the last 31 to 60 days. All right? And over the last 91 to 120 days, or should I probably say 91 through 120 days, I'm missing one there, 1060. Oh, 31 through 60 should have been 90, that's right. 61 to 90 should be 38,000. And 90 to 120 should be 15,000, I think. And over 120,000, I have 12,000 outstanding. Now, that looks pretty reasonable, right? We have this much that we owe, and looks like most recently we have a lot more in there, and you would expect to have a lot less as you go out. Does that make sense to you? Okay. Now, because you do have a lot of people that owe you right then, what do you expect about the percentage? Even if you don't have a book, if I owe you over there versus owe you over here, do you expect a higher percentage of uncollectible there or a higher percentage of uncollectible here? There, that's right, okay, because it's taking longer. So, our whole goal is to find out what should we estimate for our bad debt expense. All right. So, what do I do? By whatever percentage. So, for instance, over the last 30 days, 222,000, based on history, how long does it take us to collect that right there? Or excuse me, what percentage of people do we expect probably not to pay? 1%. Okay. What about 31 through 60 days? 5%? The next period of time? 5%? Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. How about we use 5% here? Let's change this to 4%. Because somebody might want to use this for their homework, so we can help them out a little bit. All right. Then what about 8% here? And 10% there. It's increasing, as it should. Well, excuse me, as we would expect. They should pay, right? That's what should happen. All right. Now, I need you to help me to find my estimated bad debt expense. What do I do? Help me get to that number. What do I need to do? Multiply it, okay? 1% of 222 is what? 2,220, you said? All right. 4% is what? Good. All right. 5% of this number here. 5% of 38,000 is what? 1,900. 15%. Excuse me. 15,000 times 8% is what?
1,200.
All right. And 10% of 12,000 is what?
1,200.
Good deal. All right. Now, this is going to give me my estimated bad debt. When I total all that up, how much does it come back to be?
You add them all together?
Mm-hmm.
It's 2,120.
Perfect. 10,120. That's my bad debt. That's how much I expect. Now, all these sales, let's just say, does it give us a year? No, it didn't really give us a year. Let's just say all these sales were made last year, okay? Let's just say no one's been written off yet. So we're going to put an allowance of that much. The allowance account has a normal what balance? We just talked about it. The allowance has a normal credit balance. That's right. So let's move down to the next part here. And let's see what we can talk about here. We say, prepare the year-end adjusting entry to record the bad debts and assume that the allowance for doubtful account has a $4,000 debit. Assume that it has a $4,000 debit. So, the allowance account already has a $4,000 debit. We know that based on these sales, this is how much I should have in here, right? In my estimated account. So the bad, if we were setting that up, we would have debited bad debt expense credit allowance account for, no, that amount if we were just setting up from scratch. But we already had this in here. So how do I get from what was already in here to an allowance account of 10,100 credit? What do I need to do to get there? Add them together. Okay? To get an allowance, that'd be $14,200 credit to get it there, okay? Now, why did he add those together? Any idea why he added those together? Give it a shot. Why do you add those together?
I'm not sure.
All right. Yeah, there you go.
The thing with the oranges, don't you use it?
Yeah, just like we did with the oranges, okay? So I like that. See, that's how you always just want to kind of put it together. So to kind of use that, let's just call this right here 0, okay? And the goal, I hate to say a goal to show you what somebody owes you, but the goal is to show $10,200 credit. That's the goal. But last year or the period before that, not only did we use up everything in there, but we underestimated, meaning we used an additional $4,000, which put us in the hole. Okay? So to get out of the hole, back to 0, we need to add in, we need to credit how much? The 4,000. Then we have to get all the way to 10,200, which means we have to add that additional part. That's a good way to go about doing it. Okay. Question?
How would the entry look?
How the entry look? Basically, you come up, let me see, find some room here. The entry, then it's going to work. Let's see. We'd have bad debt, we'd have bad debt expense of 14,200. And we have an allowance account of 14,200 as well. Okay? Now, what does this mean in terms of English? This means that last year, this is all last year's sales, right? So when we finished, then anything that's estimated to be an expense, bad debt expense, is left over there in 2018. That's when it's left, okay? All right, so if this is 2019, then what we would do is we come in with a fresh slate. Okay, knowing that we have a total of $10,000 that we can possibly expect to write off. Any questions on that part? Think about it for a second. So now it's come to our attention that we are not going to receive that. What do I do? Think about, well, first of all, what do we do?
With
Anybody?
5,000?
Yeah, with the 5,000, what my journal entry kind of look like?
That's uncollected, I'm not gonna do
Mm-hmm.
that. That bad, that's
Bad debt expense was last year, or last period, whatever it was, remember? It'll come out of the allowance account. Think of it like this right here. You have all of this right here, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 8 markers, right? This is your bad debt expense. This is the allowance account. This is all I'm allowed. Okay, so now, you say you're not going to pay. I don't write it out of the expense anymore because that's last year, right? But I'm going to take it out of my allowance account. Okay, so whereas my allowance account started with credit, I need to take it out by doing what? Debiting it. So how much is left in my allowance account? 6, or whatever it is. 6 oranges, 6 markers, whatever we want it to be, okay? That's what it is. Now, as we'll see in a second, let's just say that someone decides to pay. Then it previously came out of the allowance account, so I need to do what? Put it back in there so we can, that way we don't have to make a big old entry. So in order to put it back in, I need to credit it for that amount, okay? So just think of it as that. You can think of it as a bucket of water, whatever it is. You start off, let's just say all of this is full. This space represents full, but now you're down to here, okay? Well, once he decides to pay, you're going to put in some more water and add it back in. That's coming up in a second, but just kind of showing you the whole link between the whole process, okay? So in this case, the bucket of water was $10,000 or $10,120. Of that, $5,000 will not be paid. My journal entry is not to debit the bad debt expense. That's been done for that period. But I need to debit what in this case? I took it out of the what? Out of the allowance. There you go. Okay. Nothing really put there. Out of the allowance account. And I'm going to credit what? The actual accounts receivable. See, now you know it's me that's not going to pay. Or it could be me, him, and her. We're not going to pay. So in reality, you have a particular name there, but for this purpose right here, I'm not going to worry about it. $5,000. That's what would be for our account right there. Okay. How many steps is it to collect on something that's previously been written off? 2. First of all, I have to do what? Reopen it and reestablish it, and then I can show the collection. Why? Because if it was these 2 right here, and then I say I'm writing off accounts receivables, if I don't put it back in there, this is all you have. Okay, so I'm just probably writing off this person who owes you a lot more. No, we don't know that, but it's just anybody. So first of all, we have to reestablish it. And I know then take it off. It seems like a lot of work, but you see the difference, you now know who it is you're taking off. If you just decide to take it off here, you're going to take off somebody who you should not take off, okay? All right. Computer wanted to close on me. All right. So now, got the income tax check back. They decide to pay. What's the first journal entry? Accounts receivable. Perfect. That's a debit to accounts receivable, correct? All right. Excuse me. And then what else we have to do? Credit the allowance. That's right. And that's the same one here. It just so happens to be the same person, okay? Once I put it back on, then I can show the collection. I'm collecting some what? How do I show the collection of cash versus an asset? Increased assets using a debit or credit? Debit, perfect. All right. right, and now I can finally write off this person's bill. They won't get any more bills from me. And that's it. Pretty easy, right? But when you leave, it's gonna be pretty easy. I know, it's just kind of how it works. Okay. So what questions do you kind of have and kind of, you know, in terms of what can be cleared up now? Hopefully that kind of helped you to jog some questions. Who actually tried that problem while we were gone? Show me. Oh, man. Oh, come on, man.